Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss and analyze that can India really stop the river water from flowing into Pakistan? And this we are discussing in the context of the decision taken by the government of India to put Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. That basically means keep it in the state of suspension and hold. So let us try to understand this in more detail, that what and why this decision has been taken and what is going to be the impact of it on the Pakistan. Now, it was few years back after the incident of Uri or terrorist attack on Uri, which led to the loss of life of almost 18 security forces personnel from India, the Prime Minister Modi, while giving a statement, has said that blood and water cannot flow together at the same time. Now, this basically is referring to the flow of blood that is largely a result of the what you can call as the help and support that terrorist organizations have continuously received in the Pakistan, and the water refers to the Indus water because India being the upper riparian state, it is through India the water in Pakistan to the Indus river and its tributaries are flowing. So India basically now seems to have become much more frustrated with the Indus Water Treaty because first of all, this Indus Water Treaty, not only if you talk about from India's perspective, but even at the global scale, if you talk about the experts and the neutral experts, they would say that the treaty is a best example of a generous agreement where India has shown a great degree of generosity toward Pakistan. And even though Pakistan has continued to sponsor terrorism on Indian soil for last 60-70 years, still India has shown a restraint, a great degree of restraint we can say, and has not taken any action, adverse actions as far as the flow of river Indus is concerned. However, now it seems that a lot of water has flown in the what you can call as Indus water or Indus river, and it is time to take stern action. So taking that into cognizance, government of India, following the massacre of 26 innocent civilians in the Kashmir's Pahalgam, the atrocity that was carried out by the Pakistani sponsored terrorists, India has suspended the Indus Water Treaty, and this suspension is for the first time that we have seen in the history after the signing of treaty between both the countries. Now, India held the agreement. Basically, if we talk about the official wording, the use of word abeyance is used until and Pakistan absorbed the cross-border terrorism. So, unless and until Pakistan shows willingness to take action against the terrorist element operating with impunity from the Pakistani side, infiltrating across India and then carrying out such a dastardly terror attack, obviously the Indus Water Treaty will be put in hold and will remain in the state of suspension. Now, before going further in detail, let us try to understand the flow of river. So, first of all, the river Indus, which is the major river, it originates from Tibet, that is where you have the Mount Kailash. Then it flows through the Ladakh region, then it flows through India, then it enters the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and then flows through the Pakistan, the plains of Pakistan, and then finally through Karachi, it drains out into the Arabian Sea. Now, while carrying out its journey, while traversing its this entire distance, Indus receives water from 5 major tributaries, and out of these 4 tributaries originate from India. These are Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, and Beas. One tributary again originates from Tibet, that is Mount Kailash, passes through India and then enters into Pakistan, and then finally become a single river here, as you can see from here. So Indus river system, whenever we are using the term or in the context of Indus Water Treaty, Indus Water Treaty does not only talk about Indus water or Indus river water, it talks about all these 5 tributaries together as well. Now, the Indus Water Treaty, briefly, if you look at the background, was signed in year 1960 between India and Pakistan. From Indian side, it was the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru who led the delegation, while from Pakistani side, it was General Ayub Khan. And at the same time, the mediation for the signing of this treaty was done by the World Bank. So, based on this treaty, the outcome was that the 3 western rivers of the Indus river system, that is Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab, the water will be largely used by the Pakistan. India will have right to use this water only for non-conjunctive purposes. So, what is non-conjunctive purposes? We will talk about that in detail later. Then, apart from this, if we talk about the eastern river system, that is eastern rivers of Indus river system, that is made up of river Beas, Ravi, and Sutlej, the entire water can be utilized and used by India for its own purposes, whatever purpose India deems fit as such. In essence, what we can say, the water right over the Chenab, Jhelum, and Indus was given to Pakistan, while water right over river Beas, Ravi, and Sutlej was given to India. Now, it seems that 3 rivers were given under the control of India and 3 rivers were given under the control of Pakistan. That does not mean that the sharing of water was 50-50, because if you talk about the volume of water flowing through the western river, that is Chenab, Jhelum and Indus, they makes up 80% of the Indus river system, while the eastern river makes meager 20% of the river system. That means India was given right to use just 20% of Indus river system, while Pakistan has a given right over the remaining 80%. Now we have discussed that India was given the opportunity or possibility to use the water of western river only for the non-consumptive purposes, such as for hydropower generation, for navigation purposes and for fish culture. Basically what it means that India could not have stored the water of these 3 western river system for purposes such as irrigation, or they could not have significantly altered the flow that was already passing through the Pakistan from India's side. Now that is why it is referred as world's most generous water sharing pact. Like for example, even you talk about in case of China, India, there are so many rivers are there that are coming from China and then entering through Pakistan, entering through India. There are so many rivers that are coming from Nepal, entering through India. So no such upper riparian country has given such a kind of generous water sharing or have signed generous water sharing agreement with India. India was generous enough to sign such agreement with Pakistan as such. On the western river, India's uses has been minimal, limited to the run of the river hydropower project. For example, as far as the eastern river is concerned, obviously India has utilized its full potential by constructing several dams. When we talk about the Sutlej river, we have constructed Bhakra Dam. If we talk about the Beas river, we have constructed Pong Dam. We talk about Ranjit Sagar Dam that has been constructed over river this Ravi as such. So that is how we have been able to use the eastern river. But as far as the western river is concerned, we have only used these rivers as or through the run of the river project. That means we cannot store and utilize the water. We can only divert the flow of water, generate electricity, and then finally allow the water to enter into the Pakistani territory as such. Now we have discussed that Indus Water Treaty has been put in the state of suspension or abeyance. So what changes now? Now, first of all, we have to understand that practically we will not be able to construct dams in a record number of days or record period of time. So our ability to basically what you can say restrict the flow of water to the Pakistan is very limited, and obviously we cannot hold significant volume of the western river water at least in a short period of time. So the suspension of India's IWT can translate into 3 major outcomes. First is India will no longer have to notify Pakistan about the projects that it is going to construct and undertake on the western river. Earlier, Pakistan has to be informed if India is planning any kind of project, whether it is a run-of-river project or any kind of canals and all. Second, Pakistan also will not be getting any kind of data from India about the amount of water that is flowing or the changes in the hydrological measurement of the water and the river, or the data related to floods and droughts. And third, India would also will not have to entertain the visits by the Pakistani delegation, Pakistani inspection officers that was earlier carried out. Effectively, it will halt the cooperation under the treaty. So these are going to be the 3 short-term effects of the abeyance of Indus Water Treaty. Now, if you try to understand, basically, if India do not have to share any kind of river-related data to Pakistan, that means now India can carry out flushing of dam without informing the Pakistani authority. In the flushing of dam, basically what happens, dam is a kind of, you can see a wall like a structure that is constructed in the course of river, and because of the construction of dam, what happens, you have a huge large reservoir is created where a large amount of water is stored. Now because the water is not flowing at a great rate here, at high velocity here, the sediments present in the water, because the Indus river system carries huge amount of sediment with themselves as they're coming from and passing through a long distance, and they have high velocity and high erosion capacity, silt keeps on depositing at the bottom of the dam as such. So the flushing of dam is basically when the water is suddenly discharged from the lower gates of the dam, and this sudden discharge of water from the lower gates allow the silt to be carried out from the dam, and thus it basically increases what you can call as the longevity of the dam. So now this sudden discharge of water that we can do without informing Pakistan can cause devastating floods in the courses or the lower courses of the river that lies in the Pakistan region. So that is going to be the most vital short-term implications of it. Now there is certain limitations, obviously, even if we talk about that to what extent we can limit the flow of water in the Indus river system. Now, despite the potential to harness the western river, obviously we can say that theoretically we can construct huge number of dams, we can construct a large canal network and then take and divert the water from the Indus, Chenab and Jhelum, that will have a huge significance and impact on Pakistan. But the problem is that in a short term, these measures cannot be taken. We still have, if talk about the current storage capacity that we have on these rivers are negligible in nature, and that is because we have till now followed the Indus Water Treaty in the principle or in spirit. Second is, even if the government had now decided to put this treaty in a suspension, and if we decide to go ahead and create a lot of dams over these rivers, realistically it will take at least 5 to 10 years even for the planned projects to actually be implemented and put on the actual landscape. So that is because it is not a very what you can call as easier area, or what you can call as the relief of this area is not very easy to construct dams and all, because you have complex terrain, you have to channelize huge amount of funding, and also you have to get a lot of clearances, especially environmental clearances. So we know that in India it takes a lot of time. And if we talk about the earlier projects, for example, you have the Ratle project on the Chenab river, you have the Kishanganga project on the Kishanganga river, which is tributary of Jhelum. So these project itself took somewhere between 6 to 11 years after the announcement to actually be implemented and actually come into picture as such. So without substantial infrastructure on the Western River, in the short term, we have to understand that India cannot drastically alter its flows to Pakistan, and this is what is a limitation that we have to face through. Now, what are the planned projects that India can try to complete in record time or in short duration of time as soon as possible? So India has announced several key projects, such as over the river Chenab, tributary of river Chenab, you have Pakal Dul. Then you have the Ratle project again on the Chenab for generation of hydroelectricity to the extent of 850 megawatt. You have Kiru project again on the Chenab river, that is 624 megawatt. And then you have the Sawalkot project. So these projects have been announced. Now the effort should be made to fasten this project and fast track these projects through clearances and actual we can say construction all as soon as possible. And thus the combined storage capacity of existing and upcoming project, even if you suppose when you're talking about these projects, taking these projects into consideration, even after this, the combined storage capacity of the existing and upcoming projects in the western rivers and then tributaries will remain modest in nature. Now, see, one thing is that obviously India has put the treaty in suspension. What is the other options India have if push comes to shove? Now, strategic experts argue that India also has the option to make a legal exit from the Indus Water Treaty, and that is possible under the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaty. And this is an international convention that was signed in year 1969. And Article 60 of this convention clearly states that whenever there is a treaty between two different states, the one state can suspend or even withdraw from the treaty in the event of a material breach by the other party. So the promotion and support of the cross-border terrorism can obviously be considered as a material breach of the trust between the two countries, and putting that into perspective, India can make an exit, and then what you can say, the effect can be more tremendous and disastrous on Pakistan. Now let us suppose that after the suspension of Indus Water Treaty, we have been able to create so many projects and we are able to construct dams. What is going to be the impact on Pakistan? So let us try to understand this, the significance of Indus water for the Pakistan. Now, as far as the Indus river system is concerned, about 80% of Pakistan's agriculture is directly and indirectly dependent upon the Indus water system. Similarly, almost one-third of the hydropower generation or the hydroelectric generation that Pakistan carries out is dependent upon the Indus water basin. So any change in the flow, any reduction in the flow of the water will devastate the agriculture of the Pakistan, and Pakistan being the agriculture dominated country, agriculture dominated economy, we can say the economic situation of Pakistan can further worsen. Even now, if we talk about the Pakistan's economic situation is not good, it has faced several crises in the last few years that is going to become much more worse in the coming future. Pakistan could feel the impact during the dry season specifically, because that is a season when you have very less amount of water in the rivers, and even if those amount of water is stored and the flow is restricted by India, then it can cause devastation in the Pakistan. Similarly, during the monsoon season, what happens is due to heavy rainfall, there is a sudden huge inflow of water in these rivers. So if India refuses to share data with Pakistan about the floods and the change in water volume, country can then, by sharing the flooding data, stopping the this flooding data, can then lead to devastating flood in the Pakistan. So both extreme of crisis Pakistan may face if if India basically stop sharing the data and information about the rivers as such. So this is going to be the short impact. In essence, what we can say that obviously this suspension of treaty was required due to the continuous support Pakistan has given to the terrorist element and the terrorism structure that we see, the continuous training and the funding that has been provided by the ISI of Pakistan. The suspension of the Indus Water Treaty, obviously, it is going to send a very strong message that it cannot be business as usual, and it also at the same time opens the door for India to undertake more long-term infrastructure projects that was earlier not possible as long as India was adhering to Indus Waters Treaty, that could enhance the control of India over the Indus system. And this is very much required because since 1960, when we had signed the treaty first, a lot of changes in the terms of the population change, in terms of the what you can call as the need of the people of India itself, and from the perspective of agriculture to talk about, farming to talk about, it has went a significant change, and the demand of water is clearly rising in the northern and northwestern India. So to some extent, by tapping the potential of these western Indus river system, western Indus river water will able to fulfill that demand as well. So it is good for us for broad the perspective. That is what we have to understand here. So that is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button and share it with your aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you very much.